Back to our breaking news that we had this morning. The Steelers are sending wide receiver George Pickens to the Cowboys in exchange for a third rounder and a pick swap. The move comes with the Cowboys obviously needing weapons to complement CeeDee Lamb after missing the playoffs and going 7-10. Meanwhile, the Steelers moved on after acquiring DK Metcalf, and there's clearly uncertainty at quarterback. And so, Stephen A., I'm going to go to you first here. At this point, and Ryan Clark's back with us, by the way. Does it matter, because it feels like it does to me, if the Steelers get a quarterback, I don't know, like Aaron Rodgers for this upcoming season?
Well, it matters. It matters because the history of Mike Tomlin tells us that if you give him anything to work with, he can do some things. He can do some things to at least make you respectable. 18 consecutive years where he's never had a game below 500. That's a testament to him, not just as a coach, but as a motivator, as somebody that's big on accountability and what have you. His teams don't give up. I remember one of my greatest moments watching Mike Tomlin was a year that I forgot which season it was, RC, but they started out 0-4. And I remember when they were walking off the sideline and he was out or walking to the sideline and he walked on the field and he was looking in the eyes of each individual as they were walking off the field to see if they had given up, if they were ready to quit and whatever. And it was a really, really defining moment, one of those inspirational moments that you can pull and apply to anything that we're doing in life, because it's about not lying down and not accepting and resigning yourself to failure. When there's still a road to travel to achieve some big things. And I've always admired him for that. But the reality is that the Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2016. And they've lost, last six, they're one and done in the last 6 consecutive playoff series. I'm thinking about all of these things and I'm saying to myself, okay, you can get some talent. If you get a quarterback, obviously that's going to better position you to compete. And I don't think that's deniable. The flip side to that, however, is that we also have to ask ourselves this question, and I'll give it to both of y'all by simply asking this, albeit rhetorically. When you're middle of the road, isn't that the worst possible thing?
Yeah.
You either compete for a championship or you want to stink so badly that you position yourself to get a high pick so you can get something, you can build from that. So the very, very thing that we applaud Mike Tomlin about and the Steelers organization about over the last decade or so might be the worst thing that we could do, because all you're doing is resigning yourself to the level of mediocrity or slightly above mediocre that we've witnessed, knowing that even though you could end up making the playoffs, you've got a snowball's chance in hell of winning anything.
Yeah, I think, where they are now with Aaron Rodgers, it's like, how much do you think he helps this team? With what you have offensively, we're trying to revamp your run game. Arthur Smith wanting to be run first, then to the play action pass. No George Pickens. What does Aaron Rodgers make you? Does Aaron Rodgers make you a championship contender? Does Aaron Rodgers make you a Super Bowl favorite? As great as Aaron Rodgers is, 4-time MVP, and I say it consistently, the best football player, or the best quarterback I've ever played against. And it's not even close. He's only been to the Super Bowl one time. He's had a ton of great years, a ton of great regular seasons, a ton of statistics that have been compiled, but he hasn't gotten to the Super Bowl but one time. And so if you're not going to go win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, why would you bring that into your locker room? If you're going to truly rebuild, then truly rebuild. Allow a young person, allow a Will Howard, allow a Mason Rudolph to be the quarterback of a team that's not going to compete for a championship anyway. And that's not tanking. That's you making a decision to wait on a quarterback that doesn't know whether or not he wants to play football this year. Now you've gotten it to the point where you're in the second phase of OTAs. If you're a team that's about culture, if you're a team that's about family, that's about championships, you don't allow people to hold you hostage. And that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing. I think it's far past time that they should have moved on from Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I agree with everything you said, because there's 6 quarterbacks next year coming out of that draft, and if they're bad, they can get one of them. The kid from Penn State, Manning in Texas, the Everett from Arizona State's a pretty good player. So there are a lot of quarterbacks, but why would you bring in Metcalf and give him whatever they gave him? They gave him $130 million? Whatever it was. Why would you give him that guarantee? Thank you there, Stevie. Why would you do that? Give more of that guaranteed money and it's Mason Rudolph as your quarterback. They obviously think that Rodgers at the end of the day is going to go there. Now, the question then is what Ryan just said. Rodgers is past his prime. Yeah. So-so year last year with the Jets at best. And where are they going to go if Rodgers is the quarterback? They're not winning a Super Bowl.
Well,
they're not going to be the favorite. But you'll be competitive, and you'll be in a playoff hunt. Is that enough for that?
Right, yeah, but you're getting the playoff hunt, dog, and you're in that same place, that 15 to 20. That puts you in a bad spot to get a QB.
I agree with that. I agree with that, but here's where I struggle with it, guys. I'm not as down on Aaron Rodgers as most people are. I know that I am in the minority. I understand that. But he tore his Achilles on the fourth play in his Jets debut. We often hear it's going to take you a legitimate year and a half to 2 years to fully recover from that Achilles tear. Last year, he had about 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. It wasn't a great year by any stretch of the imagination, but it was still better than anything we saw from the Jets in recent memory from a Jets quarterback. So I'm looking at it from that standpoint, and I understand that he's not what he used to be. Please don't get me wrong. And I know that when he lost back-to-back playoff series at Lambeau Field against San Francisco, I get that, held to 10 points last game in San Francisco. I see all of that. But I'm thinking about what the Steelers had the last 2 years with Big Ben Roethlisberger and what they've had, since. And then I'm also asking myself, well, if y'all feel that way about it, what the hell did you let both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields go? Now, Justin Fields left on his own, went to the Jets. Russell Wilson went to the Giants, but that was after he learned that the Steelers weren't going to really give him what he was looking for. But in the end, you had two quarterbacks, and then you have none. And to lose both of them and have a Skylar Thompson and a Mason Rudolph is just unacceptable. So I think that we have to at least say to ourselves, no matter what we think of Aaron Rodgers, we know he's better than what you got. And that's what you have to go with. This is the National Football League, man. I don't think that you can go out there with Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson and Will Howard as your quarterback room. I just don't think so.
Makes me think about, you heard Doggy said, you sign DK Metcalf, you give him $130 million. Like, he's going to have to get the football. We're talking about who's going to be playing quarterback for this team, and we don't know. It could be Mason Rudolph. It could be Will Howard. It could be Aaron Rodgers. What if this wasn't a personality thing with George Pickens? What if the thing with George Pickens wasn't about whether or not we could tolerate him, whether or not we could deal with him? It was, you go sign DK Metcalf, who does the same thing that George Pickens does. You don't have a quarterback that's going to be able to get the quarterback to both of these players. What if this was a mutual decision between these two entities, the organization and George Pickens, the player, that being here doesn't work for me? In the year that I only had 3 tubs last year, I only had 800 yards, maybe that you don't, or maybe an organization is saying having you on the team doesn't work right now. Let's get something for you. And the Steelers could be putting themselves in place to rebuild. And if you're going to do that, don't do that with Aaron Rodgers.
That's fair, too.
I tend to agree, though, with Stephen A. If you look at Aaron Rodgers' regular season numbers and Josh Allen, who won the MVP's regular season numbers, they ain't that far off. At all. Like, literally, I think there's one pick here or there. Now, obviously, Josh Allen's team as a whole helped carry him much further than Rodgers and the Jets.
But I'm going to say this respectfully. Jay, I'm going to say this respectfully. That's why you watch the film, though. Right?
Sure. And a lot of that came in the fourth quarter. I could be
a numbers hunter, but if I'm a numbers hunter, I can't say to myself, okay, he played very well against Jacksonville. He played very well against Miami.
I got all
that.
It
wasn't even garbage time in those 2 games late in the season. But you got to watch the whole of it. How is he moving?
Minnesota killed him.
Exactly. And so I think it's cool to be able to say that, but games are also played and statistics are also compiled based on the way the game is going. The Buffalo Bills play the game a different way. So you can't say just because the passing numbers look the same.
I just think coming off an Achilles, the age that he has, the dysfunction that the Jets was, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, and then you look at his numbers, I don't know.
Wasn't as bad. As
bad as some people made it out to be.
But what we know is this too, right? He still behaves like a guy that won 4 MVPs.
Oh, he takes all the oxygen out of the room.
Right? And so now it's the player we see are we going to allow him to come into our locker room and behave that way?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Good point.
And there's a lot of
Well, that's fair. That's fair. But he went from playing 4 plays to playing all 17 games last year. And I'm thinking along the lines of he's heard the chatter. People talking smack about him. They're talking like he's finished. He's a shell of himself. He'll never be that way again. And now he's able to come back healthy if he chooses to come back. Again, if I've got somebody that's a prospect, even if a Justin Fields is there, I get it. I wouldn't be of this mindset. But when you're offering me Mason Rudolph or Skylar Thompson, and I know that I got to go up against Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow at least half a year, and Patrick Mahomes and C.J. Stroud and Josh Allen are in my conference, to a lesser degree, Tua, the Justin Herberts of the world. We can't ignore that. It's hard for me to say go into the locker room, go into the quarterback room with what we have, and to convince a fan base we're even trying to win. Now, if you say we're tanking the season, or it's clearly obvious, okay, then that's different. But if you're trying to compete, you got to consider it based on what you have available to you.
How do you tank when you got like T.J. Washington, DK Metcalf? Anyways,
They're still going to be good on defense. You know what, Stephen A., I was thinking a little bit about your outfit today, and you said it was cold. Stephen A., do you remember the show Maude? Right, Maude always had like a turtleneck on. Stephen A., you are from New York. It feels, the real feel right now is 64 degrees. And to your credit, you went full turtleneck. You didn't even say to yourself, let me go mock turtleneck. You got the joint pulled so high, we don't know if you brick or Stephen A right now. And then the other piece of it is, it's going to get to 68. At some point, Stephen A, it's going to be 68. No wind, no breeze.
And this won't be on.
No
and I'll
rain.
take this off.
Stephen, you inside.
Yo.
You are inside
Don't know where I'm at.
I see you come here in the winter with a suit and a tie on. You were being lazy. You were being soft. And so as you blame everything that happens to the Pittsburgh Steelers on me, I blame this on you. The level of softness you feel, you should let your nephew host the show tonight, because at least he's tougher than you.
You got something,
Damn,
Stephen A?
why I got to be tougher? Why I got to be tougher? Why you waddling around in the studio like that? Why I got to be tougher? Why you got to go that route? I'm not down with the cold, man. It's cold here right now. You understand what I'm saying? Now, it's like, listen, I'm in the mountains, man. All right, I'm in the mountains. It's cold here right now. Now, I'm going to have this off in a couple of hours, but it's cold right now.
Do we have a studio in Santa Barbara?
He's at Harry. He's at Harry and Meghan Markle's house.
I'm at an undisclosed location.
He's at Harry's right behind him, for crying out loud.
I'm at an undisclosed location.
No, you're at Harry's house. You two broke off the shoot.
I hope she's making you pasta.